Hello there. British teachers want to strike for higher wages and better working conditions. And the Conservative government doesn't like that at all. Now, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak wants to launch a major counterattack. Strikes have been paralyzing Great Britain for months, and trains and ambulances have repeatedly come to a standstill. Are classrooms now also empty? Well, the Conservative government does not want to negotiate. And I really have to say, on the contrary, now the class struggle is taking place in Great Britain. Thousands of teachers in England and Wales have voted for strikes. Many classrooms will soon remain empty. So it's a class war in the double sense. It's headlined by the newspaper Sun like this. In fact, society is more divided than it has been for a long time. On the one side, there's the Conservative government. On the other side, there's the trade unions and the left liberal opposition. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's latest move is likely to widen this gap even more. The head of government wants to use all his might to prevent the country from coming to a standstill, as it has repeatedly done in recent months. No trains, no ambulances, no mail, no border guards. The nurses of the ailing NHS health service are on strike again this week, and the teachers then want to get started in 2 weeks. So it's a not so United Kingdom at the moment, except with the unions. The government wants this to end, and that's why Sunak wants to extensively restrict the right to strike in vital sectors such as health, fire brigades, and education. The draft by Economic Secretary Grant Shapps is intended to force unions to ensure basic services, for example, for rescue and security forces or the railways. And in short, that means employees in some sectors should be prevented from going on strike. Otherwise, there's a risk of dismissal. The government is pushing its project through Parliament at high speed. The draft has already taken its second reading in the House of Commons. Observers comment that Sunak, following the example of ex-Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, wants to demonstrate strength in the class struggle and thus unite his enormously divided Tory faction. For the Conservatives, the culprits are clear: the union bosses who raked in high salaries and funded the Labour Party. They are robots that always say no, according to historian Tim Stanley in the Telegraph newspaper. But the fact that the government is showing demonstrative strength will not help it. That was said by columnist Martin Kettle in The Guardian, and his verdict is the Tories' anti-strike law will only lead to more unrest in the economy. And in fact, the outrage is enormous. Labour leader Keir Starmer said the government has moved to sacking nurses instead of applauding them, citing public applause for NHS workers during the coronavirus pandemic. The head of the Union Federation, TUC, Paul Novak, grumbled, "This draconian legislation is undemocratic, unworkable, and almost certainly illegal." And his accusation is, instead of looking for a compromise and making jobs future-proof, the Tories prefer to keep filling the coffers of the companies. At the end of the day, unions work, and that's why the Tories are going against them. That was said by Mary Black, the MP of the Scottish National Party. The truth is that this law is designed to undermine and attack workers' rights and democracy. Historically, the British have actually been critical of strikes, but the mood is changing. Millions are being hit by skyrocketing energy and food prices. Inflation was recently more than 10%, but real wages have fallen more than they have in a long time. And many feel this in their wallets, and therefore they show understanding for the displeasure of nurses, of train drivers, teachers, or postmen. The cost of living crisis is the biggest concern, and also one reason why the Conservatives, who have been governing now for almost 13 years, are doing so miserably in the polls. A Labour victory in the general election planned for 2024-25 is on the horizon, and this creates a political vacuum. The strikes come at a time when the old regime is dying, but another has not yet taken its place. That's how Nesrine Malik, Guardian columnist, put it. And an end to the strikes is not in sight. Resident doctors have announced a walkout for March. And There will constantly be strikes, and probably throughout the year, as long as the government is going that way. And even if they bring this bill through Parliament, I expect immediate court appeals on that law. And that will immediately go to court. And that will not help either, that the government is risking that. And they know that this will happen. And they know what kind of law they're making there. And that will be, unfortunately, a very interesting year from the reporting side, but not a very good year for, what you call them, common people in the UK, the people who really have to have a look at their wallets. And I'm really concerned about a lot of people there. And I can't emphasize that often enough. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.